The highway stretched endlessly under the afternoon sun, a blur of asphalt and headways. A group of young bikers rolled down the road, their laughter cutting through the hum of their engines. They were fearless, wild, and itching for trouble. Then they spotted him, a lone truck, massive and unshaken, rolling steadily along the road. The driver inside, just another old guy, or so they thought. With cocky smirks, they revved their engines and swerved dangerously close, taunting him. One rider even smacked the truck's side mirror as they sped past, expecting nothing more than a frustrated honk. But inside that cab sat someone they never should have messed with. Behind the wheel wasn't just any truck driver, he was a retired Special Forces captain, a man who had seen things they couldn't imagine. Years of discipline, training, and instincts still ran through his veins. And now, as the bikers pushed their luck, something in him stirred. At first, he stayed calm, gripping the wheel, eyes steady. He'd walked away from a life of action, choosing the quiet hum of the open road over the chaos of combat. But these bikers were making a mistake. They thought they were untouchable, that their speed and numbers gave them power. What they didn't realize was that some men don't need to fight to win, they just need the right moment. Then, one biker made a fatal error, a reckless move too close to the truck. The retired captain took a deep breath, his sharp mind already calculating. The game had changed, and in the next few moments, these bikers were about to learn a lesson they'd never forget. The biker who got too close had no idea how quickly things could turn. With a smirk, he reached out again, slapping the truck's door while keeping one hand on the handlebar. He laughed, glancing back at his buddies as if to say, "Watch this asterisk." The others cheered him on, engines revving louder, filling the air with their reckless energy. Inside the truck, the retired captain kept his hands steady on the wheel. He'd spent years in high-pressure situations, places where a single wrong move meant life or death. He wasn't the kind of man to react out of anger. No, he observed, calm, calculating. He could tell these bikers were young, cocky, full of the kind of confidence that only came from never having faced real danger. His eyes flicked to the side mirror, watching their movements. He wasn't afraid, but he wasn't about to let this go either. Respect on the road was earned, not taken, and these bikers were about to learn that firsthand. One of them suddenly swerved right in front of the truck, cutting him off. The captain's foot hovered over the brake, but he didn't slam it just yet. He had seen intimidation tactics before. This was nothing new. He could handle them without ever stepping out of the cab. A few of the bikers fell back, watching closely, waiting for his reaction. They thought they were in control, that they were running the show. But what they didn't know was that the real danger wasn't the truck they were taunting, it was the man behind the wheel. The road stretched ahead, empty except for them. The retired captain exhaled slowly. If they wanted to play, they had no idea who they were up against. The biker in front of the truck slowed down, forcing the retired captain to tap the brakes. The others spread out around him like a pack of wolves circling their prey. They were enjoying themselves, laughing and exchanging glances, convinced they had the upper hand. Inside the truck, the captain remained unfazed. He had spent his life reading people, enemy combatants, high-risk targets, men who thought they were in control until they weren't. These bikers weren't his enemy, but they were reckless, and that made them dangerous. He knew their type, thrill-seekers, testing limits without realizing when they'd gone too far. His grit on the wheel tightened, but his heart rate stayed steady. He didn't need to engage them in their game. Instead, he watched, waiting. He knew something they didn't. Pride and overconfidence always led to mistakes. One of the bikers, a lean guy with a leather jacket and a red bandana, pulled up alongside the driver's side window. He grinned and tapped on the glass with his knuckles. The captain glanced at him but didn't react. That irritated the biker. He gestured for the trucker to roll down the window. The captain didn't. The leader of the group, riding just ahead, glanced in the side mirror and nodded. That was the signal. The biker at the window suddenly reached out and grabbed onto the truck's door handle, as if daring the captain to do something. Another biker, slightly behind, reached into his jacket, though the captain couldn't see what for. Still, he didn't flinch. He had been in worse situations, in places far more dangerous than this open stretch of road. The difference was, those enemies had been prepared. These bikers, they had no idea what was coming. The road ahead stretched empty, the sun dipping lower, casting long shadows over the pavement. The bikers tightened their formation around the truck, their engines growling like hungry predators. The retired captain kept his focus, his sharp mind already working through every possible outcome. He wasn't just reacting, he was strategizing. The biker gripping the door handle smirked, tapping on the window again, more forcefully this time. When he didn't get a response, he yanked at the handle, testing if the door would open. But the captain had already locked it. He knew better than to give them an easy opening. The leader of the group, still riding just ahead, suddenly raised his hand in a quick signal. The biker who had been reaching into his jacket now pulled something out, something small, metallic, flashing in the light. The captain saw the movement in his side mirror. His instincts, the same ones that had kept him alive through years of high-risk missions, kicked in. He didn't panic. Panic was for men who weren't prepared. Instead, he adjusted his grip on the wheel, breathing evenly. The truck was big, powerful, a fortress on wheels. These bikers might think they had control, but they were playing a game they didn't fully understand. Then, it happened. The biker in front of the truck suddenly slammed on his brakes. The captain had already anticipated this move. With practiced precision, he reacted, not the way they expected, but in a way that turned their own arrogance against them. Tires screeched. The truck's massive frame shifted. The bikers, so sure of their control, had no idea that in just a few seconds, everything would change. The sudden screech of tires sent a ripple of chaos through the pack of bikers. The one in front, who had slammed on his brakes, realized too late that he had miscalculated. The retired captain wasn't just some panicked driver. He was in complete control. Instead of slamming on the brakes in fear, the truck shifted smoothly, a calculated maneuver that forced the biker to swerve a last second. His back tire wobbled, and for a moment, he was dangerously close to losing balance. The other bikers didn't have time to react. They had been so focused on intimidating the truck driver that they hadn't considered what would happen if he didn't play along. One of them clipped the leader's bike, sending both of them wobbling before barely regaining control. But just as the situation seemed like it was spiraling out of their hands, something unexpected happened. From the distance, a set of flashing red and blue lights appeared. A patrol car, cruising along the highway, had caught sight of the erratic movements. The officer behind the wheel, already suspicious, accelerated toward them. The bikers noticed it almost immediately. Their game, which had started as a way to mess with an unsuspecting truck driver, had now drawn unwanted attention. The leader, shaking off his near fall, signaled to the others. Their laughter and cocky energy were gone. Now they were calculating their next move. The retired captain noticed the shift. He had been in enough situations to recognize when people were on the verge of running. But he wasn't done with them yet. He made a slight move, unnoticeable to anyone but himself, one final test to see just how much these bikers were willing to risk. The next few seconds would decide everything. The bikers hesitated for just a moment, their cocky confidence replaced with uncertainty. The flashing red and blue lights were closing in fast. The leader glanced over his shoulder, weighing his options. Running from the law was risky, but getting caught could be worse. The group started to scatter, their tight formation breaking apart. But just as they were about to peel away, the retired captain made his move. With the same steady control he had maintained the entire time, he eased the truck ever so slightly toward the bikers on his left, forcing them to adjust. It was a small movement, barely noticeable, but it sent a clear message. He was still in charge. The leader gritted his teeth, his frustration boiling over. He had started this game expecting an easy win, But now he was staring at a situation spiraling out of his control. With a sharp rev of his engine, he bolted forward, signaling for the others to follow. They had no choice but to make a run for it. The trucker watched as they sped off, weaving dangerously between lanes. But just when they thought they had an escape route, the patrol car's siren wailed, and another set of flashing lights appeared in the distance. A second police car had joined the chase, blocking their path ahead. The bikers had nowhere to go. Their reckless fun had turned into a real problem, and now there was no easy way out. The captain exhaled slowly, watching as the officers took over. He hadn't needed to lift a finger. He had let the situation play out exactly as he knew it would. As the officers pulled the bikers over, the captain continued down the highway, his face calm. The road stretched ahead, peaceful once more. He had seen plenty of trouble in his lifetime, but some lessons didn't need to be taught with force, just patience, experience, and knowing exactly when to let the other side fall into their own trap. As the highway stretched endlessly ahead, the retired captain glanced in his rearview mirror one last time. The flashing lights grew smaller in the distance, the bikers now caught in a situation of their own making. He didn't feel anger toward them, just a quiet understanding. They were young, reckless, and unaware of how quickly things could go wrong. He had seen men like that before, not just on the road, but in life. Some learned the hard way, and some never learned at all. The open road was peaceful again, the steady hum of the engine the only sound in the cab. He adjusted his grip on the wheel, letting the moments settle. This wasn't the first time trouble had found him, and it probably wouldn't be the last. But he had made a choice when he left his old life behind. He wasn't the man who sought conflict anymore. He was just a trucker, a man who preferred silence over noise, patience over reaction. Still, a small smirk tugged at the corner of his lips. If those bikers ever figured out who they had been messing with, they'd never believe it. A retired Special Forces captain, trained to handle high-risk situations, now choosing the simplicity of the road over the chaos of his past. They had thought they were in control, but in reality, they had never even been close. With a deep breath, he let it go, focusing on the road ahead. The sun dipped lower, casting golden light over the empty stretch. Another mile, another town, another destination. No need to look back. Some lessons teach themselves, and this was one those bikers wouldn't forget anytime soon.